One little act of kindness can go a long, long way.
Hi, and welcome back to Tell Me What Happened, the podcast that features folks from all walks of life talking about childhood experiences that they've had. I'm your host, Jay Rehak, and like you, I've had my share of childhood experiences, some of them great, some of them not so great, but I'd like to think that whatever happened to me as a child has impacted who I am today and hopefully made me a better person. Tell Me What Happened is sponsored by Sidelining Publishing, publishers of quality books, including Susan Salador's classic, One Little Act of Kindness, and I've Got Peace in My Fingers, both available now at any quality bookstore or even Amazon.com. Tell Me What Happened is also sponsored by LaughSaver.com. Visit LaughSaver.com and record your laughter. We'll keep it for you now and forever. It's free, and your children, and your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren will appreciate it. So go to LaughSaver.com today and record your laughter. Today, I have as my guest my cousin, Randy Riak. He goes by the name of R-Dub. R-Dub is the creator, producer, and host of the internationally syndicated radio show, Sunday Night Slow Jams, currently heard on over 200 stations in 14 countries. He started the show when he was just 16 years old. R-Dub is also the self-appointed Grand Leader and Sultan of the People's Republic of Slowjamastan, an 11-acre sovereign nation created for people who love slow jams. Welcome to the show, Randy.
It is so good to be here. So when you told me what your podcast was about, I instantly got excited because there is absolutely one story, one pinpointed, defining moment, one that would change the entire course of my life instantly. I didn't know it at the time, but I soon realized it. So let's go back in time, and really anyone who's listening, let's go back in time to when we were kids, when we were all kids. And like most children, I changed my mind every couple of weeks of what I wanted to be when I grew up. Okay. So, one day it was a fireman, and 2 weeks later, nope, I wanted to be an airplane pilot. I was sure of it. One day, don't ask me why, I wanted to be a chauffeur because I thought it would be cool to drive around one of those cool limousines. Another day, I think maybe one of the longest career decisions that I decided to be when I was a child was, I think for like a year, I said, nope, I'm going to be an attorney because I love to talk and I love to argue. But sometime in my life, around 13 years old, this was my final decision, and I absolutely knew this was the dream job, and that was to be a radio DJ. And I discovered this because 13, your prepubescent, preteen years, I think one of the most impactful for anyone, but especially a young boy, 12, 13 years old. That's when you first fall in love and you first start taking an interest into girls, and, you start becoming a man. And at about 13 years old, I had discovered that my two greatest loves in the world over anything and everything, my passion, were these two things. Number one, talking. I love to talk. And, looking back, I was getting in trouble for talking since kindergarten. I was the kid in, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade. I was always in the corner or getting sent to the principal's office because I love to talk during class. And, I'm not embarrassed to say I love the attention. I love making people laugh. I love making the girls giggle. In the few times that I was in a situation where I was about to get in a fight with a bully or someone that was about to kick my butt, I would tell some jokes and either make fun of this guy or make him laugh and talk my way out of being pulverized and beat to a pulp. So number one, I loved talking. The problem was it was getting me in trouble. It wasn't getting me anywhere. It was getting me sent to detention. It was getting me sent home with notes. It was my parents, shrugging their shoulders saying, would you just shut up and let the teacher teach? So that was getting me in trouble. My second love that I discovered at about 12 years old was music, and a specific genre of music that was slow jams and R&B music, and for lack of a better term, Black music. I loved urban music. This was a time where radio stations and music genres honestly were pretty separated. Today, you have radio stations that play music for white, black, and brown people, and you can go to a hip hop concert or an R&B concert, and you see people of all colors. But I like to think, at least if my memory is correct, that back in the early '90s, in fact, I remember going to concerts. The very first radio contest I won on WGCI was a concert to see the OJs. My amazing mom took me to that concert, and we were the only white people there. And it was fine with me, to a point I almost felt like I kind of owned that music, at least in my circle of friends, because my circle of friends were certainly not listening to urban music. They were listening to Guns N' Roses and other music like that. And I was the weird kid who loved listening to the black radio station. And I felt a little ownership there. It was cool. So I'm kind of getting a little bit off track here. But my lead into the story was, first of all, my two passions. My two passions were music, slow jams, R&B music, and talking. And I loved the two. And up until this point, they weren't really getting me anywhere in life. As I mentioned, the talking, the big mouth that I had was getting me in trouble. It was getting me bad marks on my report card and a bad reputation in school as the kid who talked too much. And as far as my love of music, well, I was certainly enjoying listening to music, but it was causing me to be broke. I would spend all of my allowance on going to the record store. I knew every release, and I couldn't wait to, when I was in Chicago, take the train downtown to go to the record store to spend all my money. So here it is, these two loves that weren't really getting me anywhere. And then one day a light bulb popped on, and I was listening to the radio. And at this point, I was a student of radio. I loved listening to the radio. And one day I realized, wait a minute, these DJs on the radio that I absolutely love, adore, and admire. I mean, this collection of 5 to 10 different air personalities that I listen to every day, they were my heroes. And I one day realized, wait a minute, they're getting paid for this. This is their job. And I remember thinking, oh my God, throw everything out that I've ever wanted to do: lawyer, chef, attorney, chauffeur, judge, pilot. No. I want to be a radio DJ. And at that moment, it was absolutely crystal clear. And I remember running to the library and all of a sudden realizing, well, there's 5 or 10 books at my local library of how to get into broadcasting. And so I'd be the guy reading those books. And look, everything changed. And the lead into my stories is my mother. My mom was absolutely very supportive of this decision. I heard different comments from other family members that weren't very supportive. Comments like, "Oh, they don't make a lot of money," or "It's a really tough field," or "Good luck." And nothing truly encouraging. They, obviously they thought it was a pipe dream, like some kid who wants to make it in Hollywood. And I understand that. I think most parents want their kids to go to school and have a respectable job, for an accounting firm or a law firm or whatever. And here I was, I want to play records on the radio. But my mom always seemed to support that in my very early days. I moved to Tucson, Arizona to live with my mom after living with my dad for a few years. Moved to Tucson to try Arizona out. And I remember that, that first summer, my mom finding a class, I think the class was entitled How to Break into Radio. And she signed me up for that, that seminar. And so my mom had always encouraged me. And I thought that was great. So here I am at 15 years old, not old enough to drive, not old enough to really work, but I had a work ethic since I was really young. In fact, one of my first part-time jobs was 12 or 13 years old. After school, I'd go to an insurance agency and literally sit in the back and manually shred papers for them for hours every day. But it was money. It was good money. And I realized if I work, I'll make money. So I was never afraid of working. So at 15 years old, I'm in a brand new city. Now, I'm a 15-year-old absolutely loving radio and still loving to talk. And I'm in a brand new city, and I pick up the only job that I thought I could get, and that was a landscaper. This is Tucson, Arizona, and I'm 15 years old, and I'm literally breaking my back in the 115-degree heat of Tucson, digging up cactuses, getting bit by spiders, dodging snakes, coming home dirty. But I wanted to make that extra money. So I come home one afternoon after a grueling day of work, landscaping, which again, I hated, but it was good money. And my mom was really excited. Mom says, "Sit down. I want to share something with you." I said, "Okay." And I sit down, and this was the days of newspaper. This was 1992. And my mom pulled out the classifieds, the want ads, and she was really excited to show me that there was a listing from a mobile DJ company looking for a new DJ. Now, this wasn't a radio DJ. This would be a DJ that would come out with with equipment and play music for weddings and quinceañeras and corporate parties. I remember I still have the article saved, the want ad saved, the little 2x2 piece of print, and it basically said, yes, mobile DJ wanted, experience preferred, but it's not necessary. And so my mom says, you got to call this guy and interview for this. You'd be great for this. And I looked at it and I scoffed at it and I said, Mom, thanks so much, but yeah, I'm 15. I have zero experience. They must have people with big resumes and, professionals, coming to this interview. I don't want to be embarrassed. So thank you, but no, thank you. No can do, but I appreciate it. She said, no, you should really call. You should really call this company and just raise your hand and, see if they'll give you an interview. And it was a closed case for me. I said, no, Mom, I'm just, it's embarrassing. No, there's no way. It's just not possible. So thank you. Forget about it. Went on about my day. So what happens the next day? I wake up and I do my landscaping thing again. I earn my $20 or $30. And this time I come home and my mom says, sit down. I've got something to tell you. I said, sure. What's that? And she says, well, I want you to know I called the company that was looking for a mobile DJ, and I talked to the owner, and we had a half-hour conversation all about you. And I told him all about you, and he can't wait to talk to you. I shuddered in extreme embarrassment and disbelief, and honestly was, I think at the time, pretty furious at my mom. I just remember thinking, oh my God, my mom called my potential employer. This is the worst thing ever. Now, at 45 years old, I'd probably let my mom do that today because I think it's a funny shtick. But at the time, at being 15 years old, and I can't speak for everybody, but I know most people during that age think that their parents are the most uncool people ever. And, I remember this was the time where I didn't even want my mom to make a complete stop to drop me off at school. I remember just jumping out, kind of a rolling stop, not wanting anyone to see my parents drop me off. Of course, today I'm extremely proud of my parents and I show them off. But as a 15-year-old, I don't want anything to have to do with my parents. So here I am in sheer disbelief and really kind of angry at my mom for making this call. And my mom says, well, you have an interview tomorrow at 4 p.m. Ron Koss from DJ Dynamics, who's the owner. He's expecting to hear from you. I've set it up for you and he can't wait to talk to you. And I was just like, gee, thanks, Mom. And I'm like, now great. Now I have to call this guy and apologize and get through this interview. So mad at my mom, wouldn't speak to her. But the next day I have to call this guy. So I called him up very nervously, and the first thing I do is apologize. I am Mr. Koss. I am so very sorry that my mom called you. Gee, this is really embarrassing. And I remember Ron telling me, no, he said, Randy, your mom is a great person. What a sweet lady she is. And let's do the interview. So I get through the interview on the phone. He has me show up. I think that's Saturday. He wants to meet with me in person. I said, okay. So how do I get there? My mom drops me off a block away. I said, Mom, drop me off a block away. I don't want anyone to see you. And I walked up to this gentleman's house. He ran his business out of his house. And I specifically remember, a lady that, I don't know, was 10 years older than me in her 20s. I remember watching her leave she was an applicant. She was an interviewee before me. And I remember her leaving in her business suit and her attaché. And I'm just shaking my head like, dude, what am I doing here? And I met with Ron and we had a great interview, and I saw his equipment and I talked on the mic, and whatever I did, I'm sure it was absolutely horrible, but I was mesmerized at all this equipment he had. I remembered, over the past year, I was, writing in my notebook how much it would cost to buy a mixer and a cassette deck and a CD player and a speaker. And I'm like, wow, this was my dream to be able to use this equipment. And he had it all. And it was mine at my fingertips to play with. And I don't remember what we did, but I remember talking on the mic and starting a record, and he taught me the light show, and that was pretty much it. And then I drove home, and I pretty much chalked it up as, well, that was a cool experience, but maybe one day I'll be able to have a job like that. And about 3 days later, the phone rang, and it was Ron Koss from DJ Dynamics. And he told me that he thanked me for my time. And he told me that they were, definitely more qualified people that had signed up for the job, but that he really liked me. He loved my mom. And he said the aspect of being able to train someone his way, from ground zero, to basically take me and be, I guess I would be his protege or vice versa. I forget how the term goes. But he said he liked that. And he basically offered me the job and said, if you would accept it, here's how much it pays. And I would love for you to be my one and only DJ besides myself for DJ Dynamics. And a resounding, I said, absolutely yes. I didn't even know how I would get to these gigs because I was 15 and he thought I was 16. But I said, absolutely yes. I'd be proud to do it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And he said, we'll be in touch and I'll tell you about your first gig that you're going to do. And I hung up with the phone and I remember absolutely screaming, running through the house and jumping right into the pool with all of my clothes because I don't know, for some reason, this was a very ceremonious occasion. And of course, my mom was very happy for me. So at 15 years old, I could actually go to school and tell my friends that I was a DJ. Still, when I look at it, look back on it, I was just in sheer disbelief. The job was amazing. I was a horrible mobile DJ. I'll be honest with you. I was not good at it at all. But that was the exact moment, the catalyst, if you will, that started a career that has so far lasted. Let me do the math. So far lasted 30 years. I've since been a radio personality in a few awesome cities, elevated to program director, been on TV, hosted award shows, been nominated for awards, received awards, been as far as market size, worked in Los Angeles as a program director. Today, I manage 2 radio stations in San Diego, California. I'm on the air in the afternoon. And as my good cousin Jay told you, I'm on the air on over 200 radio stations with my very own syndicated show that I own, playing the music that I love, slow jams and dedications. I could not have written a better story. If you would have told me at 15, here's a pad and paper, write down what you want to do, I couldn't have made this up. The radio industry now is tougher than ever. It's a tough time for radio, but I have one of the best radio jobs locally. And then the second job, the fact that I own my own show, which is an empire of its own and a company of its own, I am absolutely doubly lucky. Here's how that one moment impacted me. And it's very clear and concise, and it's a story and a lesson that I tell kids when I go to schools and speak to kids. Going back in time, if I had the choice to call Ron Koss at DJ Dynamics and ask for this job and raise my hand and say, hey, I'd like to do this, given the choice, I would have absolutely said, no way. In fact, I did, but I didn't have a choice. My mom made the appointment and forced me into it. And I thank God and I thank my mom every day that she did that. In fact, I shudder to think what would happen if she didn't. What if she left it up to me? What if she said, well, it's your choice, call him or not, it's up to you. I could tell you I would not have called him. What stopped me was fear. What stopped me was fear of getting a no. What stopped me was, what if that person on the phone laughs and says, 15 years old, are you serious? I remember it, and not to get too off track here, but I remember at 5 or 6 years old, this scarred me. I remember being at the grocery store with my mom, and I remember walking up by myself to the free sample table, and the lady was giving little samples of 7-Up, and I remember asking for one, and I remember her just berating me, saying, you are too young, no way, get out of here. And I remember that kind of shook me. That was rejection. And I didn't forget about that. So I think part of that stayed with me as a 15-year-old. So look, I was forced into calling this guy, and that moment changed my life. So here's the lesson. The lesson is ask for it. Ask for it, even if you don't think you're qualified. Ask for anything and everything that you want to do, no matter how crazy and how big this sounds. Ask for that. Now, some people learn that lesson when they're an adult, when they're a young adult, when they're 50 years old. I was so darn fortunate to learn that one lesson when I was 15, to ask for it. And all I had to do was learn that lesson once at 15 years old. And luckily it clicked. And I clung to that lesson. I'm not even sure I realized it was a lesson at the time. But Jay, I started asking for things. From that moment on, I started asking for things. And I don't know how many things or jobs or positions or opportunities that I've asked for in the 30 years since, but I've probably received 95% no's, but 5% yeses. And I've asked for some ridiculous things and received yeses. I asked to be on the TV show Shark Tank on ABC. And I received a yes. And here I am in front of, by the way, I told my mom I applied. She didn't even get it. She didn't even understand. She's like, well, I don't really know what your product is, which is ironic because she was the one pushing me in the first place. But here I am walking down the hallway to present slow jams to these multi-millionaire, billionaire sharks. And I'm on TV in front of 12 million people. Another ask, I asked to be the program director of a radio station in Los Angeles while working in Tucson. I had zero major market experience, but because of that lesson I learned, I said, what's going to hurt asking? So let me ask. And I ended up getting a job moving from Tucson to Los Angeles, which in the entertainment industry is just unheard of. And there are many more, some larger, some smaller, but I have used that mantra my entire life, is just to ask for it. And hey, it may happen. And so that's what I tell kids when I speak to kids. I say, don't be afraid, ask for it. And it was that one specific moment at 15 years old, calling up Ron Koss and asking for something that I was absolutely unqualified for. And for some reason, this man believed in me, and others have as well down the road. And it's that one lesson has, I think, afforded me one of the most amazing and blessed careers and really lives that I could ever imagine. So I'm very thankful for my mom, and I'm really grateful to be on this podcast. Jay, that's my story.
I loved it. I loved it. You know, I'm telling you, I was exactly like you at 15, in the sense that I would have killed my mother if she'd have said something, to anybody about, giving me a job or whatever. But I think your mother, she knew you had the talent and she believed in you. And I also tip my hat to Ron Koss, the man that hired you, because he was smart enough to see that your enthusiasm and everything like that. And I love the story because I'm a former school teacher, but I taught for 36 years. And I used to tell kids all the time the same thing you're saying, which is, ask for it, deserve it when you get it, work hard for it. You obviously have. I love the fact that, you've lived the dream. And by the way, my audience does skew very young. So my students will appreciate hearing this story, and I do hope that it resonates with them. You ask for the moon and, you don't always get it. 95% rejection, but if you can handle rejection, you can really have a pretty good life.
You can get to that other 5% and you can go to the moon. I love and respect everything you do, Cousin Jay. So much love to you and all of your listeners. And you can find me online at slowjams.com.
Well, that's our show. I'd like to thank my cousin R-Dub for that great story, inspirational actually. I also like to thank my sponsors, Sidelining Publishing, publishers of quality books, including Susan Salador's One Little Act of Kindness. I'd also like to thank our other sponsor, LaughSaver.com. Visit LaughSaver.com and record your laughter. We'll keep it for you now and forever. It's free, and your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will appreciate it. That's LaughSaver.com. All right, I'm going to end this show as I almost always do with Susan Salador's classic One Little Act of Kindness. Until next time, stay safe out there and try not to hurt anybody.
One little act of kindness can go a long, long way. Two little acts of kindness can brighten anyone's day. Three little acts of kindness can make a beautiful sound. Many acts of kindness help the world go round. One little loving word can go a long, long way. Two little loving words can brighten anyone's day. Three little loving words can make a beautiful sound. Many loving words help the world go round. One little seed sown can go a long, long way. Two little seeds sown can brighten anyone's day. Three little seeds sown can make a beautiful sound. Many seeds sown help the world go around. One little child's laughter can go a long, long way. Two little children laughter can brighten anyone's day. Three little children's laughter can make a beautiful sound. Many children laughing help the world go round, and many seeds sown help the world go round. Many loving words help the world go round, and many acts of kindness help the world go round.